Hey guys, my name is Amadeadraws and my guess is that you've loved art your whole life and you always wanted to get into drawing, but you have no idea how to start, and you've been hearing about this thing called digital art and you're curious of what it entails. So I'm here to tell you all the background information on how I got started in digital art, which tools I use and what I would recommend. So let's dive in. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet, because I come out with videos on digital art, my experience, tutorials, and all kinds of fun things on this channel. So first of all, the tool that I use for making digital art is an iPad Pro. It's a 12.9-inch screen size, and I have the second generation Apple Pencil, which is really awesome. And this is an iPad Pro from 2021, so it's about 2 years old now and it's still working perfectly, and I use it almost every day. So let me tell you my 4 favorite things about the iPad and why I would recommend it. First of all, it's so cool that this thing can fit into my backpack, and so if we go to sit out on the beach, if I just want to hang out in a park, or even if we're going to hang out at a friend's house or family's house all day, I can literally just drop it in my backpack and I can draw, or even if I do oil paint, I can paint. I can use all different colors, it's all accessible on this one device. So I love that about the iPad. So because it's not a drawing pad, it is an actual iPad. I use it as a laptop so many times, so I can write emails, I can take notes, I can even FaceTime on it, or handle my Patreon, handle my Etsy orders, or edit my website. So I can basically work on this while it is also my drawing tool. So all of these things are just super appealing. So the other 2 things that I love about this iPad is the battery life is actually pretty good. This iPad is 2.5 years old now, and I can charge it and with a full charge go to a coffee shop and it stays charged for about 5 hours. So I get to draw for 5 hours on it, and the pen gets charged every time it's attached to the iPad, so it actually never really runs out of battery, which is pretty amazing, because that's the most frustrating thing when you're just in middle of drawing something and you have to take a 10-15 minute break when you're creative because you have to charge your pen. So that never really happens with the iPad for me. And then the 4th thing is that the software that I use on it is Procreate, but you can use other softwares on it too. I just think Procreate is the best, and Procreate is only $10, one-time fee, and it's a super intuitive. So if you want to get my 10 minutes 5 tips for Procreate for beginners, make sure to check out this video here. And if you have any questions, I'm always happy to make a more in-depth tutorial, so just feel free to let me know in the comments. So with all the good things and advantages of things, there are also disadvantages. So I could only think of 3 disadvantages of owning the iPad as a digital art tool, and I'm gonna tell you guys those ones. First of all, it is a little more pricier, right? So to buy an iPad, a new one can be $1,000 or so, as opposed to if you just buy yourself a drawing pad, those ones you can buy for a couple $100s. But what I would recommend you do if you're a beginner, I actually started out with a lot smaller iPad. So it was a 9-inch iPad or something. It was this small, and my husband got it for me for Christmas. I think it was around $450 new, but I'm sure that if you find a used iPad with a pretty good battery life, make sure to check out the battery life. Those smaller iPads you could get for a couple $100 too. And I actually used that iPad for commissions and starting out and learning Procreate and all that. And after about 4 months, I was just using it every day. So that's when we made the call of, okay, let's upgrade to a newer, bigger iPad, and that's when I actually got the iPad Pro, which was a big screen. So what I would recommend is, even though the price is a little bit of a drawback, just get yourself one of the cheaper models, get the hang of it, see if you actually like using it every day, and if you're so into it like I was, then it's no question after that it's gonna be worth the investment. The other 2 drawbacks that I could say is the storage. So actually this is something I would recommend. The iPad has some limitations with the layer size, so the more storage you have, the more layers you will gonna be able to have in your art software. So that is one thing I would try to focus on, whichever iPad you get, to make sure to get the highest storage possible. And even with that, I think my iPad is 250 gigabytes, but I have to make sure I'm staying on top of cleaning out my artworks, and I also pay $10 a month for iCloud, which I started doing after about 2 years, because actually after 2 years there was this moment where my iPad just went blank, and took it to the store and I thought I lost everything that was on it, and they told me in the store that it was just so full, the storage was so full, it was having a hard time actually like working properly. So after that, I put it on my calendar that every month I go through my artworks and I save it into iCloud and make sure that there is about 20 gigabytes of storage that is constantly open. So since then, my iPad has been working perfectly, but storage is a big deal. So a drawback would be if you get something that's lower storage, then you have to stay on top of it and you're gonna have less layers in the software. But I feel like as a beginner, you shouldn't worry about it too much, but this is just a thing. And finally, if you wanna use like a fancier art software like Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, those softwares are definitely amazing and have some fancier features, such as in Photoshop, you can select separate colors, so you can do that in Procreate. Like if I were to just select the pink colors on the artwork, it would be a little bit trickier to figure out how to do that. Wouldn't be as easy, but Photoshop has just so many more features that are actually like pointless, I feel like, and you don't really use it on a day-to-day, but at the same time, the learning curve of learning that software is like 10 times as much because of all the features. So it's like, you want all these features, it takes so much more to learn it, but you won't really use them. So because of all these things, I guess it's a drawback that the iPad programs usually don't have as many features, but I think it's actually better because you learn everything faster and it's so much more intuitive than if you had like hundreds of things and it would be overwhelming to learn them all. But I think that even Clip Studio Paint and Photoshop works on the iPad, but it's a little harder to use them because there's so many features. The screen is just cluttered with all the features and they're very tiny, so to like click on them and figure out how to use them, for me it was overwhelming, so I just stick with Procreate. All right, so overall I would say if you're a beginner looking into just invest in an iPad that you can afford. Definitely keep your budget in mind. Don't go too overboard because sometimes you get so excited you're like thinking that you'll be able to do all this amazing artwork with investing in a more expensive tool, but sometimes you find out it's not really for you. Maybe you don't use it as often, or it feels like a burden, like, oh my god, I invested all this money, I better use it. So I would say don't put that pressure on yourself, because as an artist you want to be able to keep the art as pressureless as possible, especially with social media and everything. You just feel this constant need to compete and do things, and you can't really do art well that way. You really need to make sure you give yourself emotional space and just free-flowing spirits so you can really channel your creativity into what you create. So what I would recommend if you're a beginner, set a budget that's affordable, that doesn't stress you out, and just find something on the market that's used. Two things to make sure to ask the person you buy it from to prove that the battery life is healthy, and that also to get something with the highest storage possible. And then after that, you can see how it works for you and upgrade to something with a bigger screen, or a newer version. So that is my recommendation. I hope this was really helpful in your search for a new tool. Next week, I'm gonna come out with a video on how to draw bodies and figures without learning anatomy. And that is actually very similar to a video I already came out with. It's anatomy for beginners, but add even more information and tips. So make sure to subscribe to see that. And until then, I love you all. Thank you for being here. See you on Patreon. Please send me a message on Instagram and let me know in the comments if you're about to start digital art and which tool and software you decided on investing in. Love you guys. Bye.